welcome to a new episode of Showing Up Solo. These days, it's not enough to be a small business owner. You also have to be an online marketing expert, an accountant, a website designer, a content creator, and the list goes on. You know how important marketing is, but if you're spending all your time selling your services, how will you have any time left to actually provide them? That's where Showing Up Solo comes in. Showing Up Solo is a video podcast giving you the ins and outs of online marketing from solopreneurs just like you. Tune in every other Wednesday for easy to implement advice, guest experts, and plenty of food analogies. Thanks for tuning in, and now, on to the main episode. Hi, everybody, and thank you for joining me for another episode of Showing Up Solo. I am thrilled to be joined today by Anne Mok of Purpose in View. I had the pleasure of hearing Anne speak at a Wine Women Wellbeing event, and her story was so inspirational. I couldn't wait to get her on the podcast. Before we dive in, Anne, would you like to let our audience know a little bit more about yourself?
Sure. So my name is Anne Mok, and my Instagram handle is at Purpose in View. And I'm a creator, advocate, blogger, entrepreneur, speaker, and digital storyteller. And I do all of that while being blind.
Wow. What I find really fascinating, what inspired me to start speaking with you, is the fact that you do a lot of your influencing, like you're an Instagram influencer, and Instagram is there's such a heavy focus on the visuals. I mean, it was originally a photo sharing app. It's evolved into a video sharing app. But I think that's fascinating that you have really found a way to harness it to make an impact. And I'd love to know why you picked Instagram and how you made it work for you.
Well, it started back in 2019. I had gotten really sick. I was diagnosed with NDPH, new daily persistent headache. So I was bedridden for a good 8 months. And in that time, I saw how the pandemic had really impacted the visually impaired community and the chronic illness community, because we were all dependent on ordering online and web experiences. And if the website was inaccessible and you were trying to order, say, your runners or whatever, your groceries online, and image descriptions and alt text wasn't there, you weren't getting what you thought you were getting. And it was very difficult. Or if your website was inaccessible, you were going to exit out, and it became a very frustrating experience. And you were losing your independence already, but you would have to rely on others to look at the site for you or look at the image to tell you what it was that you were going to get. So, because you can shop in stores at all or touch and look at the product.
Yeah.
And I've always been a visual person. I was diagnosed later in life with my vision loss, but I love visual things. I think visually. I like to touch and feel things. Like I love interior design. I love watching HGTV. I, like clothes, and I like shopping, and I'm pretty good at writing and describing things. And I love pictures. I love art. And the social media platform that resonates most with me is Instagram. I've never been on social media prior to this until 2020 when I started my Instagram account. And I thought, you know what? I really want to.
Started my Instagram in 2018. So I know it's one of those things, right?
Yeah.
But it is once you get on there, it's a very fun platform.
Yes. Yeah. And I thought, if I'm going to go on there, I want to challenge it. And I want to make sure I do it right. So I researched about how to be really accessible on Instagram, because not only do I want to be accessible, but I want to make sure that I build community, connections, and be a leader. If I'm going to do this, I want to make sure I do this right. So that's how I started. And I would take photos. It was really sort of, in the beginning, it was sort of self care for myself, because, I couldn't get out of bed for a long time. So I would take a picture, take time to comb my hair, that type of thing, and take a photo. And I could see close enough that I could take photos. And then it was nice for me because I could look at details. And then I would take the time to write the image description and detail it. I create the alt text for it. And, I would shop. So then I would tag a local business and provide the detail for that. So if anyone was looking for something, then they knew what it was. And I found that to be really helpful for everyone all around. And then in some of the photos and some of the captions, I would provide storytelling behind it. So it created a whole round experience. And it seemed to resonate with a lot of people. And I continued to create this ripple effect and grow in the community.
Well, and I think that's really powerful too, because accessibility is one of those things. Without it, you're excluding people, but with it, you're including everyone.
Yes.
Right? Like that's the thing is, if you don't need a screen, if you don't use a screen reader or don't need image descriptions, you don't notice that they're missing.
Yeah.
But if they're there, they just enhance your experience, and they make it available to everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
Am I correct in thinking that you even have a collaboration with a local clothing brand?
Yes. I had always liked Little White House in Fort Langley, and I had purchased a couple of items from them and tagged them and did a reel. And I do audio descriptions and captions for my reels, as well as I do like a video description of the reel as well, to make it accessible as well. And again, they really liked it, and they had an ambassadorship program for them as well. And I signed up for that and got accepted. So now I have an ambassadorship with them. So then now I can sell their clothes like on my website and get a little bit of profit from that too. So, and it's nice because then I can show how to style the clothes as a visually impaired person, why I chose those clothes for the details and what they show, to show, what, even though we're visually impaired, we still like to look good. So, it's not like we don't know, how to dress or, those type of things, right? I really wanted to show that we're just like everybody else. You might come across a visually impaired person and you don't even know it, because if anybody saw me on the street, you wouldn't know at all.
And I love that collaboration came out of you taking like a brand that you love and making it accessible to a wider community by providing those descriptions in your reels and everything. And so it's just another ripple effect benefit of being more accessible. So obviously you've touched on a few topics, but I would love your advice for our listeners on things that we maybe don't see when it comes to what we can do to make our content more accessible, or your tips for making it more accessible, specifically to people who are visually impaired.
So definitely when you're doing your Instagram post, if you go into the accessibility settings, like adding in the alt text and basically just keeping that simple. That part is just keeping it simple. The screen reader will pick that up. And then there's many people that don't use a screen reader. And that's where I think the number one thing I would say is putting in image description.
Mm-hmm.
That is the most helpful thing, because, on our iPhones now, we have accessibility settings, and that can just read it off right away. And, a lot of the photos are difficult to see. And even if you have text that's italicized, and it can be really difficult to distinguish, or the contrast isn't good, even just writing that out in the image would be so helpful. The reels, I mean, the trends are to have them really quick, like 7 seconds, and they're like boom, 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 boom. Just having that video description would go a long way. It's hard to slow that down and really take a look at it.
That's a problem that I face myself. So I'm dyslexic.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, it's the challenge is the reading part.
Yes.
And those quick little reels where the text just flashes by.
Yeah.
I have to watch those like 14 times. So the content creator's probably loving all the views, but I'm like, I have to keep watching it just to try to catch it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I even have a YouTuber who I love their content, but they speak very, very quickly.
Yeah.
And they have visuals going on, and the word, they've got so much handwritten text on those visuals that doesn't match what they're saying. And oh my gosh, I have to watch their videos twice, once to listen with like the screen off, and then once to like try to read the text. Otherwise I miss half the content.
Yeah. So yes, I would say image descriptions are probably the number one thing I would say, because it not only helps, the visually impaired, it helps so many people, those with, autism, those with sensory processing disorders, neurodivergence, foreign language speakers, because they can be translated. So it helps so many people. And really, this, CDC says that, 1 in 4 people reports having a disability. So anybody in your, for a brand or a company or service, someone that you're serving has some sort of a disability.
Yeah.
So that you've got to think of everybody and include everybody. Someone that that you're serving has a disability of that you've got to really think
that's
about.
Like 25% of people.
Yes.
Like imagine if you just started being more inclusive with your content, you just hugely expand your client base.
Yes.
And then there are tools on and also one other thing that also helps is everything that makes it easier for things like screen readers. Also makes it easier for the little robots from Google to find your content.
Yes.
So it boosts your SEO.
So. Exactly. Yeah. Not only does it help people, but it does boost your SEO.
So it's like
benefits.
It benefits. It just benefits you in so many ways.
Exactly.
Yeah. I also just wanted to ask about the community that you've grown through Instagram, and any advice you have for people who are looking to grow that kind of community, especially with its I want to say niche, but after the 1 in 4 stat, it's not
it's not really niche, because
but to target a very specific demographic. How did you build this community?
Really, it's about connection and really being genuine and authentic and really reaching out. When I started it, I was going through a difficult time, and I really wanted to find other people like me so that I could thrive in who I was as a person, and I could meet others. And in doing so, there's been so many connections that, we've all been able to thrive together. We've all learned from each other, and we're like, oh, okay, I'm not the only one feeling like this. And we can all help each other and support each other at the same time. And not only with the visually impaired community, but with the sighted community, because they've also learned from me, from us, And they're like, oh, I didn't know that. Oh, that's great, right? So all these, and or they, they know someone or a family member that is going through this, and now they know how to help that person, or they've encountered someone, and it all makes the world better from community to our local to the world. We can all make it better, and it really is just education and awareness, and that's all I hope to do is provide is education and awareness. Because once people are aware, they're like, oh yeah, that's right, and it's not like you have to drill things into people. It's just education and awareness, and that's the biggest thing. And if you just lead with kindness, I think that's all we really need.
Yeah, just being kind, and I think you're right. Once you know.
Yeah, yeah.
It's like I always made a point. I used to always make a point of putting captions on my reels, because if someone isn't able to hear what I'm saying, they've got the captions there. And if I was using a particular audio track, I would caption the audio track too, in case someone couldn't hear. But I didn't think about the visual part. And I was like, I should be describing these too. If it's just a funny little, if it's just one of those goofy dances or something to do with expressions, then you need to have the image description in there too. And also just things like camel case for your hashtag. That's one that I've been doing for a long time. And it doesn't only help screen readers to read it, but again, as someone with dyslexia, if I'm looking at it, it's a lot easier for me to read a hashtag in camel case than trying to like figure out where the word stops.
What's the word, right? Yeah. So all those little things make a difference. And as people have seen my posts, they recognize, oh, that's why, or they'll ask me, right? And it's just, and then when they see my posts come up, they're like, oh yeah, when I see her, she reminds me. When her posts come up, they remind me to them. I'm like, hey, that's good, right?
Yeah, that's well, and that's what the more we talk about it, the more we help everyone.
Yeah.
And actually, that kind of also brings me on to another sort of segue. Is one thing I talk about a lot with my clients and with the audience is feeling confident showing up as you are. I know a lot of clients can have a bit of a mental block, like they don't like the way they look or they don't like the way they sound. And I just wondered if you had any of those before you started making yourself, and how you got over them.
I'm probably still not over them, but it took a while. But I realized how important it is to really show representation and diversity. As I've been on social media, the response has been really powerful about how many people I've been able to help, especially the younger generation and in the Asian population as well. Just, in terms of a role model, seeing someone that's out there and just being proud to hold your chin up, go out there, rock your cane, and just do it. Like I'm still shy to go on like my stories, because I'm not that quick about it. Most of the days I'm not feeling so great, but like when I do, I'll get up there, right? But that's one thing, and I make sure that when I go out in my community, when I go to Walmart, I'm like, go out there proud, rock my cane, and get my groceries and stuff, and so that people see visually impaired people in the community and they know how to interact with us. And I'm open to any questions and anything, because I don't want them to shy away, because a lot of times they see you and they're like, oh, I don't know what to do now, right? And I'm like, hey, no, you know what? I'm okay, right? Because they don't know, how to, when they see you and you have to cross the street, they're like, should I grab you? Should I yell at you? Should I don't know what to do. And it's all about education. That's all it is. Because like I said, most people don't encounter a visually impaired person. So the more you get out there, the more you help to educate. And that's the most important thing.
And I love what you said about representation as well. I listened to your TEDx talk. That we'll leave a link in the show notes for anyone who's curious. And you talked about how you just hadn't seen that many visually impaired people, and even less Asian visually impaired people. And it kind of comes in line with something I'm always telling my clients too. If you want to see more of you on social media, then you need to put more of you on social media. Because we need to, the more we show up, the more people like us will show up. That's one of the reasons I like to show up like as a mom who's perfect and maybe doesn't always have time to do her hair and makeup. And show up as a dyslexic person with spelling mistakes, because the more I do that, the more those moms who are stressed and those people with dyslexia who think they can't post, they're going to show up too. And so I love that that you share that philosophy of you have to make a space for yourself and make yourself seen.
There's so many, like when visually impaired people get to the point where they need to use their white cane, many of us hide it. Many of us don't want to use it because of the stigma, and especially in the Asian community too. So I make sure that I pull it out and use it and show, you could be cool. Well,
my mother had a cane, but for walking, she had mobility difficulties, so she had to use a cane. And I remember when she first had to use it, she was just so embarrassed about it. And I'm like, but you need it to walk. Like, would you rather be in pain than do it? And then she actually upgraded to crutches. And so we have this whole, like, because I didn't want her to feel ashamed of needing a mobility aid. I mean, if you need it, you need it. So we make fun of it. We make it light. Like, we talk about, like, my kids always think that grandmas all come with sticks because their grandma comes with a stick, and she has one of those little handicap dongles for the car, and we call it a golden ticket. And we're like, you've got the golden ticket, and we're going to get the good parking. And just kind of embrace it, because she really, like you said, there's 1 in 4 people. You might feel very alone, but actually
you're not alone.
People out there, like, part of a huge community.
And it's a club that anybody can join. Like, anybody can join, right?
Well, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you. This was a great talk. And
before we go, is there any last nuggets of wisdom that you'd like to share with my audience?
I just like, everybody just to be open-minded, and just, you never know what people are going through. For a lot of years, even when I was working and had low vision, I hid my disability for a long time. No one knew what was going through me, but I had a lot of anxiety. It could be your coworker, a friend. You just never know.
I know that I used to hide my dyslexia too, being terrified that I wouldn't be able to keep my job because or I wouldn't get promoted because I was dyslexic, or like, that's the you don't know what people are going through.
You don't know what people are going through.
So be kind.
And in business, in your marketing, you your clients, your customers, be open-minded to who your people are, and nurture them.
So if anyone wants to find you, start following you, where can they find you online, Anne?
You can find me on Instagram at Purpose in View. I also have Facebook and TikTok, but I'm not on that too much. But I do have a website, purposeandview.com. And I just recently did a TED Talk. And my TED Talk is titled Blindsided, Anne Mok.
Okay, we're going to leave a link to that for sure in the show notes, because I checked it out and it was a good one.
Thank you.
So I've already shared it to a few people.
Thank you so much.
So thank you so much for joining me, Anne, and thank you everyone else for tuning in. I hope this has given you some new ideas on how to make your content more accessible. And until next week, see ya.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks for listening. If you're a fan of the Showing Up Solo podcast, you can show your support by liking, commenting, sharing, or leaving a review. Want to spend less time on your marketing and make better content? Head to showingupsolo.com to grab your free copy of our Full Circle Content Guide, the same time-saving method we use for creating our own content. Need more help getting your marketing in order? Learn how to build a marketing plan while working smarter, not harder. Our Setup for Success package gives you everything you need to create a marketing plan that is low maintenance, high impact, and perfect for generating consistent leads. Head to showingupsolo.com for more info. See you next episode.